have a more complex decision to make, as in you have multiple options, and you've got probably like there's a number of different criteria that you need to consider, then you can use the decision-making matrix to help decide this. So when my husband and I were up for buying a new car because somebody ran up the back of my old car, very sad moment, then we were like, okay, so are we going to replace this car with the same car or get a new one? And we decided like, okay, let's think this through thoroughly. And we came up with a list of criteria that were important for us in buying a car. And we put it through the decision-making matrix. So we had criteria. You could have 1, 2, 3, you might have 4 or 5 sets of criteria. And then you need to prioritize the criteria. How important is it? And give it a figurative weight, a score. So we did the exercise. We had a number of different cars that we were looking at, about 10 different cars. We did the decision-making matrix in this process, and the suggested outcome was to buy a little Jaguar sports car. And I went, really? What criteria are we missing here? Because that was not floating to the top of my list. And it turns out financial responsibility was probably a more important criteria than any of the others. So we rejigged the whole matrix to make sure that we actually had that as a criteria, and the Jag dropped off, which is sad in some ways and smart in others. So don't put your decision through a decision-making matrix only just to prove your point. That is the hazard of this particular assessment tool. It's like, if you don't get the answer you want, then you can go back and tweak it. So I've done this exercise with in a strategic planning context where we looked at what should we do in terms of the options for this new organization. So they set out their criteria and their different options, and we actually went through this together, one step at a time, weighting the criteria and then assessing each of the options against each of the criteria as a collective. Took all the emotion out of it, most of the emotion out of it, so that you had a score. And at the end result, it's like, okay, that's the decision. That's the structure of the organization, the way that we're going to go. So it was a really useful exercise to do.